Just find that comfortable meditation posture, as if with the spine as extended as possible, so as if the back is straight. You can lightly close your eyes. This is your time right now. So let go all the busy distractions of the day. And allow that normal, natural breath to move through your system. And just bringing yourself here, more present into the space. Just consider your purpose for being here right now. So it'd be wonderful to generate a more positive attitude. We always have that choice. If we're not geared that way, we can practice slowly. And if we are more positive, it sends those ripples out in your life to your community, your family, your friends, into the universe, something happier, more buoyant. It also can enhance our own practice, giving us more energy and motivation. So may we use that to move along this path to full awakening, to becoming a Buddha, fully awakened being, a highly realized being who is omniscient, free of fear, with fully manifest every good quality, who uses that every moment to benefit all living beings. So this is something we also can do on this path. The real goal being to benefit all living beings. If that interests you, feel free to fold that into your motivation. Setting a positive intention right now for our time together. So please relax. Slowly open your eyes. This is the 21st century nun I teach off of my phone. Which is fine. Sorry, I meant to pull this course up. Oh, here we go. It's so incredible with the phone now. I used to cart a lot of Dharma materials around with me, books, things, and it's heavy, and now there's more and more restrictions on what you can carry, how much the weight and how many bags for free and things when you travel. So it's on my phone. It's great. Okay, here we go. I want to talk about, and talking about keeping the mind positive, a few, and these are just some basic practical exercises, most of which I have a feeling you know, like that. Okay, so, and these relate to Dharma, they can come from Dharma, they're also just practical exercises of life, okay? And I kind of call them 10 golden rules for resiliency, coping, and stress management, okay? You can call them whatever you like, but it's my own little list of, okay? I just find these are things that help keep my mind in a good space, help me manage stress, get away from the story and the drama, keep the heart open. Again, please try. So I'm giving you information, that's all, according to this tradition, for the most part. You have to fold it into your life and see, does it work? Try something, cook it yourself. That's what I liked about the path. It's not me forcing it down your throat, and if you don't believe this, you're going to hell. It's not like that. And I'm not really interested in people being Buddhist. I'm really interested in people being happy. So if you find something that works, makes you happier, great. Doesn't, put it to the side. Find something else. But you have to experiment. You have to engage in it yourself. You can't, nobody can fix you like that. And the Buddhas can enlighten us. They can guide us and give us information, but they can't do it for us, okay? So here's number 1. Again, these are all pretty, you've heard these before, okay? How about developing realistic expectations? Like personally, professionally, developing realistic expectations. So I am about to lead a pilgrimage in May to the Mount Everest region of Nepal. And one of the talks I give in the orientation is to please park your expectations for the trip at the door. Because it's kind of the mother of disappointment, I found. We have an idea, you know, of how long the trek's going to be. And there's a detailed itinerary, but people, they get to Laudo and they go, the cave's really smaller than I thought. And Rinpoche's sisters, no, and this isn't the way I thought, and I thought the food was going to be like this, and I thought that. What if you're just open to what is coming? What if it's realistic, what you're thinking about, instead of some fantasy notion? So we do it a lot. Yesterday we talked about how we have expectations personally in our relationships, like that. And when you have a lot of expectations, you're layering a lot of weight on people. Not really helpful. And then they're bound to disappoint you, okay? Professionally, similarly. We set ourselves up for something that's not realistic. So this is all a path of basing it in reality. And Lama Yeshe, who's the gentleman right here, who founded our organization, used to talk about, in your practice, in your life, are you touching reality? Are you touching reality, he'd say. So some of it relates to an ultimate truth of emptiness, but just on a general, conventional level, think about the stories you get going in your mind. Okay? So this is about dropping the story. Dropping the story makes you a lot happier, freer. Okay? So just think for a moment. I'd like you to just consider when you get a story going. Do you ever get a story going about somebody? Okay? And it could be, do you ever walk into a party or a dinner? Something, you're invited somebody. We just left the holidays. You come in, I forget, did I talk about this last night? Okay. You look across the room and you see somebody you kind of know. You know, maybe they're a friend but not a close friend, but somebody you want to talk to, that you've had a good experience with. Somebody you know, and you look across the room, but they're talking to somebody. Okay? But when you walk in the door, they see you, and they look and they see you. They don't smile or anything, and they go right back into the conversation they're in. Did I talk about this last night?
No.
No, okay. Okay. That's happened to all of us, right? Okay. What's your response to that? How do you feel about that? Okay, she's laughing a little bit. There's a little discomfort here. What's going on for you? It's okay with you? You walk in and they look over?
No, I think that it's happened to me in the past. Now I don't make such a big deal out of it, but I think I might have felt in the past hurt by it, or rejected, or like the person didn't remember me or something.
I did something wrong.
You did something wrong? Did something wrong?
I've done something wrong.
And then did you get a story going? And suddenly you're walking in and you hit this episode happens. And then what's your mind starts? I did something wrong, and wow, do they not like me? Do I look funny? I thought my hair was okay. I wonder why they didn't smile. Did I do something to hurt them? Wow, they're always like that. They're never friendly. It's endless, right? It's a heavy trip. But think about this. The moment before you were looking forward to going to this event, and you were getting dressed for it. That afternoon and evening, and you get dressed and you got the thing, and I got my outfit, and I'm really happy. And in the morning I woke up and I went, oh, I have that thing tonight. Looking forward to the thing. So everything's okay. Everything seemed to be okay. You walk in, one turn of the head back, and you're not okay? Let's be realistic again. What's the problem? Ego is the problem. Ego and misunderstanding. Projection. False projection, right? So think about it. It's just one, so think about it, and you might have a little analysis. You walk in and all of a sudden a dart comes because they don't smile. And then right there, analyze. As you're walking in, you're taking off your coat and go, well, I've done that sometimes. In fact, I've been engaged in a conversation that I couldn't pull away from, and so I saw the person. I intend to go over and talk to them, but I really didn't want to start smiling, and then, because I thought this person might think it's rude that I'm not listening to them now, so I can't really focus. So I've been in that situation. So I might be analyzing and then quickly checking, did I do anything wrong to that person? No. So I'll find them later. And then, you know what? Grammatically, punctuation, period. End of that story. Can you put the period at the end? A big period some people need. End of the story. You don't need to carry it on in the mind. You don't need to go on with it. That's it. It's just, okay, we'll check in later. I'm okay. Oh, who do I want to, oh, that person I want to see. it. So think about it. You have no idea. You don't know if the person's engaged in a conversation they don't want to be in. And they're a little bit looking like, get me out of here. Like, You don't know if they have gas. And they're talking to somebody, right? And they're kind of like, can't smile. There's so many other stories like that. Right? So it's just we get that stuck on, I'm the most important, my trip around myself. So like that. So that's something, realistic expectations, and drop the story right there. I'll notice the story that's going on. Is that story accurate? That I did something wrong? What did you do wrong? You walked into the room. A moment before I was fine. Not guilty, not doing anything wrong. So why now, just because they glanced at me like that? They have their own trip going on, independent of me. Why is it always about me as well? I think I mentioned before, a long time ago, a friend of mine who lives in Texas, he sends out a newsletter every year about his family. People that send these Christmas letters, and his is really funny. He's a great writer. And he and his wife, they recommend books at the end that they've read during the year. And one of them was like the 365 Tools for Daily Living or something. And I'm not usually into books like that. I don't usually read books like that. So, but he had the first couple things, first couple tools. So I thought it was interesting. So tool number one was it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay? Now, some things matter. Some things matter. But sometimes you're running a huge tape and a whole thing and a saga, and you realize it really doesn't matter. Why am I fighting about this? Why am I obsessing about this? It doesn't matter. So that's helpful to, again, about dropping the story. This is number 2. Are you ready? They're not talking about you. Right? Because, so the self-cherishing, the negative parts of your ego, it's all about me. Everything's reflected about me. Everything's got to be back to me. Most people are too busy with their own minds and their own selves to be really that focused on you, like that. So that kind of helps that, like, why is it about me? They're just glancing, okay, I'll catch them later, I'll find out what's going on. Maybe they're sick, maybe they're not in a good space. Okay. Here's number 2, golden rules. Know your limits. Set reasonable goals and boundaries, and if needed, it's okay to say no. What do you think about that? People good at that? It's really important to know your limits. So people on this path, the Mahayana Buddhist path, hear the word bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is like a Buddhist saint. And their whole premise for being is to fully wake up so I can benefit all living beings. And all I want to do is cherish others more than myself. It's beautiful. Beautiful place to be. And so they feel like people say, well, I don't know if I want to develop that and be on that path because people might take advantage of me. This is a fear people have of developing great compassion. I might be like a doormat for people, and people will use me, and people will take all the time. And that's not really the true bodhisattva, because you're so focused on cherishing others that for them to take advantage of you is not necessarily good for them. But they also set boundaries, as many of my teachers do, so that they have more to give in the future, more resources to give. So sometimes it's really helpful if you set reasonable boundaries, like that. And what about reasonable goals, personally and professionally? What are some of your goals? Are they reasonable? You think about it? Even a daily goal. You wake up in the morning, I'm going to finish this whole project, but there's no way you can do it in an 8-hour day at work. Some people set themselves up like that again and again. I have to be here. I have to be at this place in my life at this time. But it's not reasonable. So, and if it's difficult for you to find the reason, maybe you need to get some help and get some support from either peer counselors or friends that set reasonable boundaries. And somebody asked last night and they said, if I'm not good at doing something, how do I do it? Get some help, get some support. There's people out there that can help. You can ask a friend who sets good boundaries like that. It's perfectly understandable. And I think it's also helpful with somebody that is abusing you and somebody that is an addict, alcoholic, something like that, is to set very clear boundaries with them and to hold to the boundaries. And that's difficult. It's difficult, but it really can keep the mind buoyant. I'm clear, but I'm coming from a compassionate place. So you're coming from a good motivation. Not that I hate them, but I really, really care for them. And so you can't drink in my house. You can come into my house. You're an alcoholic. You come into the house. You can't bring alcohol with you, and you're not going to have any alcohol here. If you want to stay, if you want to spend the night, if you want to live here, not possible. Happy for you to be here. Set the boundaries with that. We've had issues at a lot of, and I don't know how it is in the city centers, but retreat centers. I've run a couple retreat centers for our organization, and they are notorious magnets for people with mental illness. Now, there's a lot of mental illness on the planet, and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? It doesn't quite get the validation that physical illness gets, unfortunately. So it's illness. And some people are physically ill, some people have cancer. Somebody who has cancer, a lot of people have a lot of empathy and compassion, but somebody who is bipolar, people not so much. Oh, well, they should be able to control themselves. It's an illness. It's an illness. You can't control your cancer, and you can't control your mood sometimes when you're bipolar. So people don't want to take medication for it, and the reason is sometimes it has byproducts, side effects of making you a little kind of numbed out, losing that edge a little bit, okay? So it's understandable like that. So I had to set very clear boundaries. We had many, many mentally ill show up. Sometimes they wanted to do retreat, but some of them we knew we had a relationship with over time. And, somebody wanted to come for 3 months, summer work study, schizophrenic guy, very nice guy. And I knew him for a couple of years, nice guy. And he went on and off of his meds. So he wanted to come for the work study, 3 months. And I made a deal with him. We sat down privately, and I just said, I'd really like this to work out. I'm really happy that you're here. And here's the deal, you need to stay on your medication. And if I have any inkling at all that you're not taking them, I will call your emergency contact right away and you will have to leave right away. Do you understand? Is that clear? And he was like, yep. Okay. So, 2-3 weeks into the first month, it was about a month he was with us, something was clearly wrong. And he stopped taking his meds, is what was wrong. And he was just manifesting in a really challenging way. And then our manager asked him and somebody else asked him, and he kept saying, no, I'm taking my meds. And I just knew he wasn't taking his meds. And then I took him aside and I asked him, and he said, no, I'm not taking my medicine. And then I just called the number, and his mom came and picked him up. And he could come back to the center, but I had parameters under which he could come back. Like we would start him coming back for a day-long practice. And see how he's doing, and I wanted to hear from his mother. Was he still seeing a psychiatrist? Was he still taking medication? Make parameters, and then it becomes a better supportive situation for him as well. And it seemed to work better for him, even though it's just so sad when you're really off balance like that. Here's number 3. Limit efforts to control situations and others. Right? Okay? While doing your best in every moment. Again, limit efforts to control situations and others. How many of you are control freaks, would you say? And who are you trying to control? Your family? Who are you trying to control?
My kids, my
Back,
husband.
no, in the back. Who are you?
Oh.
Who would you say?
Well,
Everything?
myself. I guess
Yourself?
it's not necessarily other people. It's more like environment. I want to try to control my environment. For this.
Okay. Right? Who else?
My son.
Your son? Okay. So let's relax. This makes it very relaxing for you, and this really does keep the mind. What can you control?
My breath.
There's one thing you can control. Yourself, your mind. That's it, your mind. That's it. So you can let go of trying to control everything else because you can't. So you just get frustrated. Okay? You can control your mind. Now you'll say, but I can't. Okay, so you work on it. That's it. It's the only thing you can control. You'll be much more peaceful. Other people can spin out around you. Your son's going to keep doing what he's doing. The environment is doing its thing. If I can control my mind, okay, I can contribute to a more harmonious planet by controlling my mind. Absolutely. You're part of the world. That has an effect on the world. You controlling your mind. You making your mind more peaceful, less angry, less attached, less prideful, less jealous, less confused, less depressed, less anxious. That has an effect. That has a ripple effect on the planet. Absolutely. Don't think it doesn't. We see what it's like when you're around other people and they're agitated. You go, well, they're ill. They're attacking somebody. They're attached to somebody. They're jealous. You see the effect it has on other people around you. Like that. I just remember once, I don't know why this story popped in my head. It's kind of related, but I lived in California for a long time, and I would fly in. My sister was living in New York with her family at the time, and I was getting the subway going out to her place, and I ended up somehow at, I don't know about, anyway, I was at Penn Station on the subway platform, and it was rush hour, and it was mobbed. It was packed. And there was a guy in a trench coat with a briefcase next to me, kind of nicely dressed, and it was packed with people. And then, how many of you have ever been in New York? Yeah, what it's like. So then an announcement came on. The train was really late. We're like, there's no train, and everybody's kind of, I wondered, should I try something else? But that was the main train to get to. And an announcement came on. Now, did you ever watch Saturday Night Live? Years ago, they have skits, comedy skits, and one of them was, I love this skit, New York Subway Announcer School.
Oh.
It was really funny. New York Subway Announcer School, and so basically these announcements I found unintelligible. I could never understand them. Now they're better. Now they're better. They did something, but it used to be, and at Saturday Night Live, the skit was they're all in classroom, and there's the instructor going, okay, repeat after me. So this announcement comes on. I get none of it. I'm really like, what, and I want to ask the guy, what did they say? Because I thought maybe I should, but all I know is half the people on my platform got a message from the universe, and they left the platform and they came up on the other side. I was like, what did they hear? I didn't get any of the message. Like, my hearing was fine. Now they're all standing over there, and so I just decided, well, I don't know what to do, I'll just wait. 5 minutes goes by, another announcement. I got none of it. Another announcement. And those people, they came back onto our side of the platform. I was really like, is this candid camera? Like, is this a joke? Is anybody filming me or something? Because I'm lost here. I'm like, this is not California. This was something else. The guy's still standing next to me. He didn't move either. The trench coat, briefcase, right? And then there's a third announcement, and everybody stays where they are. And I'm really like, is this? No. And he loses it. Completely lost it. Flailing his arms and arms, cursing at the top of his lungs, like really red face, just, it was, so, and you saw everybody just slowly backed away from him, like afraid to dart, because in case, you don't know if he had a weapon, or we just kind of gave him space. About 3 minutes he went off, calmed down, and then he went back to standing there. And then the train came by and we all got on. We all jammed into the train that was already full, and so you have a ripple effect. Like, it affects people. Think about what you're putting out there, what energy you're putting out there. So we're trying to control people. Doesn't work, and then we have hostility with them. They're again, the expectations. They're not living up to their expectations. They're not doing what I need them to do, what I think they should be doing. The environment is not in the realm that it should be. And I see you're a younger person, so I would be concerned about that as well, because may have a longer future than some of us. But we don't know. But hopefully you have a longer future, so you'd want to have a healthy planet on which to live. Be able to do that. What can I do about it? What can I do about it? Am I doing everything I can do? You take action and you do it, right? With a good motivation, and then analyze, I can't do. Can you let go? Can you let it go? And just be more peaceful, focusing on how I can control my mind. Notice if you're happier like that. Because I went through that for a long time, trying to control people, control the situation, and then when I couldn't, I'd get angry. So not at all a positive situation in my mind. We have, as you know, the Serenity Prayer they usually use in the 12-step programs. It's a nice prayer like that. Give me the wisdom to know what I can change, and the grace to know what I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference, like that. That's helpful. That relates to that very much. Master Shantideva as well, of if you want the earth to be soft for you to walk around on, if we want it to be comfortable, basically. We'd like the climate to be better and things. What I can do is cover the entire planet with a soft material. Try to fix everything else. Is that possible? No. So why don't I just put the nice material over my own 2 feet? Fix your mind. Fix your mind. Be much happier. And then you can be much more engaged in what you're able to help, what you're able to support, like that. And then sometimes what can release you from the control issues, we get into rigidity, things have to be a certain way. Things have to be a certain way. So anybody here play the ball where the monkey dropped it? Has anybody heard this? Play the ball where the monkey dropped it. It's a story of a couple golfers went out in an area that had monkeys, like India. And they were playing, and there was a group of people. And what would happen is they would hit the ball, and then your ball would be there, and that's where you take the ball again for your next round, for your next stroke. And monkeys would come down and they'd move the ball. And so people kept going back and no, your ball was over there. Put it back over there. So you'd move the ball back, and the monkey would come and move it over. And then it led to utter frustration. So there's occasionally times when you're adjusting, and you're readjusting, and and it has to, what if you just played the ball where the monkey dropped it? There's certain situations, again, you have to evaluate, you have to assess realistically, can I just let this go and like, let's just move on with where we are. We do that at Dharma centers all the time. Sometimes you're working with a core of volunteers and somebody didn't show up and somebody, you know, this is different and it's like, okay, so where are we at right now? What's happening right now? Like that. We'll just deal with it as we go along. Like that. It's good enough right now. We can manage. Okay. And much more peace in the mind. You check. Much more peace in the mind. Number 4. What if you step back? Okay? You're stuck in the weeds. Really upset about this issue that's popped up. This person said something to you, they did something, this, it's always like that, I'm focused on this. And what if you just step back for a minute and zoom out? And suddenly you see there's a whole forest here. I'm focused on this little thing, but there's all this stuff. Is that possible? See the bigger, longer view. The bigger, longer view. And you can also ask yourself, how will I feel about this situation in 6 months? How will I feel about it in 5 years? So do I need to keep, you know, on you? Is that helpful? Keep pounding you? To keep picking this point up with somebody? It's like when people pick at scabs. You know, it's kind of a disgusting image, but you know, if you just back off and zoom out and go, oh my God, there's all these other things happening. That's pleasant. You know? In 6 months, I wouldn't even think about this thing. Okay? So it gives you perspective. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Okay. Number 5, increase interpersonal support is very helpful for keeping the mind positive. Increase interpersonal support. Okay, so develop and nurture some social support network that works for you, avoiding isolation. Okay, avoiding the only time, and I'll give a different word for positive. Alone time is aloneness. Is different than loneliness and isolation. Loneliness and isolation is not helpful for people, and it's that loneliness is actually seen as a delusion, an imbalance in the mind. Aloneness is powerful. Aloneness, you're confident, you're okay, and you just want some time on your own. I tend to recharge alone. I find that's where I need to have some space alone, and I can tell if I'm really tired and I start getting a bit spaced out and then I start getting cranky, and I know that I travel a lot and I'm with a lot of people when I'm traveling, you know, and I suddenly kind of hit this like, whoop, and I just know that I need to kind of go to my room, and I'll just excuse myself, and I have a lot of practice to do sometimes, and I just kind of need the alone time. So there's nothing wrong with saying that, as long as it's an appropriate time that, like that. I think really, really helpful. However, the flip side is to have some nurturing, healthy support social structures like that, so that you have somebody to talk to when things are sailing downhill, when things are imbalanced and you're not sure, and you can check in with somebody. Somebody who's safe, that you trust, that you've built up a relationship over time. But be cautious again about number 1. Do you have realistic expectations in the relationship? Are you always dumping on them? Are you only talking about yourself all the time with them? Are you never interested in what their view is, what's going on for them? Because that's how friendships are. There's a give and take. There's a mutual support. So make sure it's not just about me, but that it's healthy. And I find Dharma centers are fantastic for that, because you meet like-minded people, and you can come and attend a Dharma thing together and then go out for some tea, have dinner, go for a walk on the beach. It's perfect. And that's how my Dharma career kind of grew. When I moved out to California, just having met the Dharma and started to go to events there were a lot of centers in California. And so I was making new friends in general, but I had my work friends that were not about Dharma. They were not Buddhist at all. So I liked them, but then I started on the side to go to these Dharma centers, these Buddhist centers. And then I started to meet people there. And somehow the things I was more interested in, they were more interested in that than some of my work friends. Slowly. So that was kind of neat. And then I could develop more of those friends, and so some of them now, they're still lifelong friends for me of the Dharma group. And the people with the work, I think I'm friends with maybe one or two of them out of an office of 30 or 35 people I met through that, or even more. And I think one or two of them we're still in touch, kind of sporadically like that. So it's kind of neat because then you do more Dharma activities together. So share feelings with someone you trust that's not a gossip and that is discreet. And it's helpful than bottling up your feelings, which doesn't lend to a positive mind. Okay, because sometimes what some people do is they either fold in on themselves or they explode at inappropriate times. And another thing I find is about this interpersonal support, okay? So right now, we have technology, right, that we're addicted to. A lot of people are very addicted. Some people come to me about, can you help me with, I'm really, having problems. I'm addicted to my phone. I'm addicted to this game, this app, okay? So can you create tech holidays? Can you create a tech holiday? Limiting social media interaction if you're addicted to it. Seriously, because that increases interpersonal relationships sometimes. Or some healthy alone time where you have more time to meditate, more time to practice. I wanted to read the Dharma book. Well, now I have time. So you might want to assess, and this is a serious problem right now, is the technology, our addiction to the technology, not the technology, our addiction. Okay? I have tech holidays. I have at least one day a week I don't turn anything on. Okay. So you say, well, emergency, my kid. So there is a way, and a woman I think in Nashville brought this up, where I was teaching a couple days ago, or maybe it was here, who said that on some phones now, you can go to, in settings, it is the do not disturb thing. And under there, you can say who you want to disturb you. So if it's your kids, it's only your kids. And it's the only thing that will buzz through. And nobody else gets through. So then set it like that. Be realistic. If you have to talk to somebody, like I have a landline at my parents' house where I live. There's a landline. So my sister and brother, because my parents are gone, so there's not that emergency of that where I needed to know what was happening with my dad. If there's an emergency, they will call the landline if they can't get my phone, because they know sometimes I don't have the phone on, or I'm not near the phone, not paying attention. That way they can call the landline, and if I'm in the house, I hear it ring, and I have a screen, and I can look and see who it is. So if it's one of them, I'll pick it up. But the other spam things, I don't need to answer it. So why don't you be skillful like that? The other thing you can do is, my phone now has, in one of the upgrades, I don't know, it has screen time. You familiar with that? Mm-hmm. Screen time. It tells you exactly how long you've been on your phone and exactly what you're using it for. Have a look there. Some of you are aware, but some people say to me, no, I really don't play games for that much on the phone. And I go, okay, let's look at your screen time. And then they're like, 5 hours yesterday. 5 hours? It was broken up into increments. Like 1 hour you were lying in bed at night. Half an hour waking up in the morning. There was a little half an hour at lunch. There was another hour when you got home from work. Please check. Please check. I would delete all that stuff off the phone, all the games. It's such a time waster. Can't imagine. Okay, it's just a habit. You go there because it's a habit, if that's your thing. So you're going to have a little 2-week kind of gripping moment without them, and then you'll have something healthier that replaces it. Please try. It's usually like that, a couple weeks of weaning yourself off, and a little withdrawal, maybe a big withdrawal, depending on how long you're playing, what you're playing, and then fill it up with, oh, I can read the Dharma book, I can talk to this, I can return the phone calls. Do you have any people that you need to call, they want you to call, and you have a catch-up call? A lot of people don't spend time on the phone, but I have some people where we're going to do the phone call, we make a date to have a phone call. It's going to be an hour, or half an hour, the phone call. And it could be a work phone call I'm putting off. Okay, but then I have time for that interpersonal stuff, and I catch up with somebody else. Maybe we do a Skype call because they're on the other side of the country. So the interpersonal thing is really, really helpful to increase that. We're losing that ability to healthily relate to each other in person. Number 6, manage your time well. Time management, it's a basic that we hear about it with all kinds of work situations. So you've got urgency versus an importance kind of thing like that. So this is about setting healthy priorities. And over life, we reprioritize what's important. It changes with life. That's okay. Are you clear about your priorities? Do you need to list them sometimes? I've done that at times. If I'm making a big life decision, what's the most important things to me? What order did they come up? What even turns up on the page? That could surprise you. Did you ever list things like that? I mentioned another time is I had this relationship when I was in California, and at the time I was really getting into the Dharma, and I started living at a Dharma center in San Francisco. And then I had this partner, and he really wasn't into the kind of spirituality I was into, but he was a spiritual person. Really nice guy. And slowly, over the course of like on and off 3 years we spent together, we didn't live near each other the whole time, but we were only an hour and a half apart. And it was easy to see each other, and I go down there, he'd come up here, up to me. And I just noticed that the Dharma was moving, had changed places in the priorities of my life, and it was moving up to the top. Where before relationship was really important. But that suddenly went down like a couple notches. But for him, that was number one. He was really clear, and he really wanted a partner, and he really wanted to do this stuff with a partner. And so slowly by the 3rd year, it was a weekend, and I wanted to go to this Dharma teaching, and he wanted to do something else. And I was like, why don't we go to the Dharma teaching? Then, he was like, I don't really want to go. And so eventually he realized he was like 2nd or 3rd on the list, and he didn't really want to be that way anymore. So we split up. That. So just be clear about, but then how do you manage your time? Again, this is about, part of it is limiting social media engagement. Limiting social media engagement can be helpful, but just managing the time well. So I don't know if you are, first of all, we're thoroughly distracted right now in society. We're so distracted, unbelievable. And I do find the internet, which has some incredibly positive things about it, and helpful things, like we have Zoom meetings now. Some of you are probably engaged in those. Meaning, you're familiar with Skype, you can talk in person, but Zoom seems to be a better platform. So I did a training in something called Cultivating Balanced Empathy a few months ago, and the training was run out of London. That's our organization, part of it, from there. And 30 people participated, roughly, from all over the world. And the Zoom platform lets you see everybody. So you register very easily, and then they send you a link, you click on it, and you're in the meeting. The meeting starts at this time. There's everybody. There's the coordinators. Over here you see everybody. They put PowerPoint things up. Pictures can go up. We're all discussing. You mute your microphone, and then when you want to speak, they unmute you, and then you comment. And then what we did is we did exercises. So they put us in breakout rooms, online. I'm in my bedroom at home, where I have a desk. And what they did is they put us in breakout rooms, and there's me and 2 friends end up in our own little room together. And they're like, one's in India and one was in France. And I hadn't seen these people in a while, and suddenly we're like, hi, how are you doing? We're supposed to be doing our exercise, but we were catching up in the beginning a little bit. So I find the internet incredibly helpful for things like that. Okay. But what happens is people have bells and whistles on their technology that are going off all the time. And I help some people organize and reprioritize, sometimes in like coaching at times. And so one of these people, I was sitting at their desk with them, and I said, okay, so show me what you do when you work and what's happening. And while we're working in front of her computer, okay, every time an email message came in, when the program wasn't even showing on the computer, a voice said, "You've got mail." Every single email, and it was just, and I said to her, so what do you think about shutting that off? Well, I won't know if the email came in. And as soon as the email came in, she wanted to open it up, and I said, but we're working on this now. We're not working on email. We're doing this other project. So huge distractions. You can reset the devices with the sound. I think most of you know that. So, and I actually set things. So I have a time in my schedule, you know, and it may not even be mapped out on the thing, or you can put it in a schedule. You know, lawyers have to account for every single quarter hour of what they're doing. And if it helps you to be more structured, make a structure. So 20 minutes, you know, 11 to 11:20, I'm returning emails, focusing on emails. It doesn't matter how many you're doing, you know, or you might say, I really got to get through these, so I'm going to have to reply a little bit more quickly. Or if you don't have a set thing like that, 20 minutes, I'm doing the emails. Somebody calls you in the middle of that, and your phone's here, you can look. I don't need to talk to that person now, because we have the idea, it comes up, you see who it is. Wonderful thing about technology. I'm doing my emails. And then you call them back when it's convenient for you to call back. Unless you made a date with the person to talk then, and unless it's somebody you've been trying to reach for a long time. Okay, and it's a doctor or something. Okay, take the call. You can interrupt, there are exceptions. But for the most part, and I know people, they're supposed to be doing email, then somebody called, then it was an hour call, they just got into it, and then they go and they're like, what was I doing? Oh, I didn't get to any email today. Now I have an appointment, I have to go. So why not make some clear structure if you find it benefits you, and it keeps my mind clear personally, like that. Because when the phone rings, unless you made a phone conference with someone, a date with someone, that's the time when it's convenient for that person to speak to you. So I know we're trying to be kind, you know, I know we want to help people, but again, through my time management, I'm better able to help people. Then I really am available for people. Make sense? Are we communicating?
Yes.
Okay. So another part of the time management, and I've just been at a couple other centers and people were asking me, you know, what do I do about this? And what happens with centers, you might notice this, some of you that have been working here for a while, are people come in to the center on a night there's a class, or they phone the center. And some people contact the centers when they're in crisis. It's a normal thing to do. Their teenage daughter's suicidal, their son is addicted, their husband left them, and suddenly then they contact the center in dire urgency. I need to talk to somebody now. And then they suddenly for a week they come to the center. They're not really that interested in Buddhism, or maybe they've been interested, and they come. And this one center is, the woman was saying, when I'm here for the program, like I'll have a program, and people come and they have the number of the center, and she said the number of the center rolls over into her personal phone. So she has a separate phone number, but she does design it so it rolls over into the phone, because the center is only open when they have a program when she's there, which a lot of centers like this are. Makes sense. And then people want to have an hour, they start talking to her on the phone about all their problems. And she said, what do I do? It's just endless. And then they want to go out all the time, and it's just all about their problems. And I said, so if they don't have an appointment with you, why not set a 10-minute limit? I've got 10 minutes right now. I've got undivided 10 minutes for you, then I have to go. So we were at a retreat center, meaning I live there. And people would turn up, and I'm the nun there. I was the only nun. So they turn up and they think it's my job to be the counselor for them. I'm not actually a professional therapist. Okay? So there's certain things I'm not trained in and I don't feel skilled in at all, like that. And they would turn up in an hour, and so I started, if they came without an appointment, I'd say, really happy to talk with you for 10 minutes. And if they needed a little bit more time, I might go to 15 minutes, and I'd say, if you'd like to set up an appointment for the next time, because I've also got other things that I'm in the middle of, so be happy to set something up. And then what happens is they set something up, and then their emergency subsides, and they don't show up, or they call you back, I'm not coming, I'm okay, everything's fine. Okay. So it's again back to the setting limits. I think it's okay to do that, again, with compassionate wisdom, and based on what else that I'm really doing, which is still my motivation to serve all living beings. But if I don't take care of these other things, the program tonight isn't going to be great. I won't be prepared. I have other things. I think it's reasonable, like that. So I find that time management can be really helpful, but it is it's challenging to set it up if you're not used to doing it. So get some support. Find other people that are doing it well and ask them for a little bit of advice, a little bit of help. With that. I'm not doing it perfectly, but I know this woman said, "Oh, I never thought about that. That's a great idea." Well, I learned that from somebody else, right? So pass it on to somebody else. Why not? You can have 10 minutes with somebody. Somebody needs help. Here's number 7. Be flexible and resilient. Flexible and resilient. And establish methods that encourage that. Okay? Some people are really rigid. You know what that's? No, this is what we're doing now. We have to do it now. You see them, the kind of dug in. Why? Is there a possibility of flexibility? Right? It's fluid. It makes things flow. Okay? Within reason. Within reason. I couldn't say at 7 o'clock tonight, "Hey, let's go out for dinner, everybody. I want to go out for dinner." No, there's a class. Okay? But when plans change, which they often do, how's your mind? Are you rigid? We were supposed to have lunch today. I was looking forward to going to that restaurant. What do you mean you can't come? Now it depends if they've canceled a 3rd time for you. But generally things happen. Things turn up for people. Do you flow with it, or are you dug in? And then you're miserable. Check. So I know I mentioned this before in another class. So we're all familiar with the Oprah Winfrey Show. She did an experiment. She was filming the show, her old show in Chicago. And somebody told me about this. And I think they sent me a link. I saw a little part of it. And she got everyone's permission to film them and put it on the show. The tickets are free, but you have to get, whatever. In those days it wasn't online, but whatever you signed up, and then you waited outside, and then finally they let you in and all that. So the exercise was about stress and creating that negative mind state for people. So they spoke to people, and some of them they said, "We're really sorry, but we've kind of oversold the show. We've given out too many tickets today. So you can't come today, but we have a really nice gift for you, and we have tickets for you for tomorrow." So what would your response be? How would that work for you? Sorry? Cool? Okay, you're good with it. You roll with it. Resilient. Cool. Everybody okay with that?
I think it would depend on the circumstance.
Depend on the circumstance?
Yeah, can I go tomorrow? How far
Right.
did I travel?
Okay.
Here?
You think so? Okay.
For me.
Yep.
Then there'd be disappointment.
Disappointment. Okay. Yep. Pretty honest, right? So I would think that. Initially I thought, well, it depends. Does it depend? Okay. So she interviewed people. 2 women came up. They filmed them. "Sorry, we don't have tickets. Nice gift." And they looked at each other and they went, "Oh, that's too bad. Actually, we're from LA. We're on a 4-day weekend here. We can't come tomorrow. We're flying back tomorrow. But you know what? Thanks for the gift. We'll take the gift." And they looked at each other and they said, "I guess we're going to go to the museum we didn't think we'd have time for." Okay. And off they went down the street very happily, unwavered. No problem. Then they interviewed another woman. She was there with a friend from Chicago. She could go the next day. She went ballistic. "You're getting me into that show today. I am going to be there." Does it depend? Resilience. What if your mind's just spacious? Now, it does, but we're also dealing with the other ones. You've set boundaries. You're clear with people. If a friend cancels lunch for you 3 times, the 3rd time you might say, and they want to plan again and say, "You canceled 3 times. I would really love to have lunch with you. I'm looking forward to it. How can we set a date so we know we're both going to be there? How can I ensure that you're not going to cancel again? Because my time's also valuable, and I know the things you canceled for were valid, but say that, or you set yourself up in a place where they're going to come and meet you, and you're still working, and whether they show up, it's okay, and if they don't, it doesn't matter too. You're still doing your thing. You can set it up like that. So just, again, using some wisdom, but again, flexibility and resilience. Okay like that. Things change. Number 8, take care of the machine, okay? Extreme self-care. Self-care. And this relates to something, terms I'll use, self-compassion. Self-compassion. We sometimes think that's not okay because we're all about the bodhisattva path and we have to cherish others. Well, you can't really do it well if you're not taking care of yourself. So, how much sleep do you get? How's that going? Sometimes gets harder as you get older. So figure out what's going to support you sleeping better. More and more I find in magazines and articles, it's all about sleep, the importance of sleep. Right? And I've read some of those things because sometimes I don't sleep a whole lot. So just kind of what, and so I notice, so I do things like there's like 2 hours before I want to go to sleep. The lighting in the room, I've got it set. If I change clothes, I change clothes then. I've stopped drinking, I've stopped eating. I do all those kind of things that are like gearing my mind, because it takes me a long time to wind down. We're going to sleep in a couple hours. Like, get ready, it's coming. And I just start all those little signs. So you can do that where some people are zooming right into bed and then there they are wired. They've just eaten some massively heavy meal or had a big cup of coffee, or the technology's going. Some people tell me disturbing movies they had before they went to bed, they couldn't sleep. So be skillful about it, but the sleep's important. So a lot of these things you can find online of ways to, I'm sure many of you have read those, of how to sleep better, okay? Make sure the sleep is restorative. Restorative, that you wake up refreshed to a degree, as much as you can. Maybe it's not every day, but that it's restorative. So you have a partner that snores all the time. You have a partner that snores. Fix that. See what needs to happen. Sleep apnea can cause you to snore a lot. You can fix that. I know a couple where, if that starts happening, fortunately she has another room in the house, she goes off and sleeps in another bed, gets a good night's sleep. Or she'll have a few nights a week she sleeps in the other bed. It's possible to do that. It's not a big deal. Okay. Exercising regularly is taking care of the machine. Regular exercise, and it also helps you sleep better. Regular exercise, within reason. As you get older, check what's good exercise for you, like that. Good nutrition, eating well. We know all these tools. What's your intake of sugar and junk food? How's that going for you? What about Diet Coke? Are you a Diet Coke addict? It's addictive, Diet Coke, by the way. Seriously addictive. And Pepsi free and whatever those things are. They are. I worked with a woman, I don't know how many she had a day. She was hyper. She was so, you couldn't even hear her talk sometimes. I'm going to. And me and my boss, she was working for us, and we were like, after, some months, we're like, there's a problem. And if I hear her pop another Diet Coke, she was just so wired from it. And so slowly we kind of got her to reduce, and she just said it was so helpful. She just said, I'm so jittery right now, I'm just so hyper. And so just check what are you eating, what's contributing to that. What about limiting certain substances you might use? Caffeine, alcohol, tobacco. There's habit forming with over-the-counter drugs that form habits. So can I limit those? I might need them for something, but can I check how much I'm using it? And then the last one of self-care, allow private time. This is the aloneness again. Do you have any stillness, any time to be still? And this is what I find is the meditation practice so supports a positive attitude. For me, it's the key to my keeping a positive attitude, is having a consistent meditation practice. I've spoken about that so much in here, so it's nothing new to you. But developing a consistent meditation practice. It might sound good, how do you do it? Well, the first thing is, I think, showing up at a center like this, okay? And then meeting people here and coming to courses that might be on meditation. Then you can ask questions specifically of how to tailor your meditation. You can meet with teachers. You can get kind of a plan. There's a book in the bookstore called How to Meditate. I would buy that book, and you can get it online in an e-reader form. How to Meditate by Kathleen McDonald. It goes from everything from motivation to posture, okay, to everything with meditations in there. The meditation, each meditation has a preliminary, what to think about. And then it has the actual meditation. Okay? So you open the book and you prop it up with something like this so that it's open. Okay? So you don't have to hold it, but you can hold it. It's no big deal. We try not to put too much on our Dharma books stuff. So some people have a big paperweight, but you can prop it open and you read a couple sentences, especially when you get into the actual meditation, and then close your eyes, reflect on that more deeply. Read a couple more sentences. That's how I learned how to meditate. I did a meditation course, but then the book, and I slowly, and that's how I learned how to lead meditation. But then I had to do meditations on my own, so I use that as a guide, and if you do a meditation every day for 2 weeks, you don't need the book anymore. You know what you're meditating, go in there. So it might be kind of just generating a white light coming down, helping me feel positive. And I stay with that for a while. Right? Meditation on love or something. She has purification meditations. She might have a meditation on how do you deal with anger, stuff like that. So you slowly, and it starts shifting the mind a little bit. And then you might have a meditation practice where the beginning of my meditation practice is, first, my posture's set because I do it so often, so I've got the posture. But some people need to you want to check the posture. Okay, I think I got it right, and get some instruction on that. There's variations in the posture. What's comfortable? Make a comfortable, safe, quiet space in your home, if you can. It can be a closet. It can be something not heavily trafficked. Experiment with cushions. Every body is different. You can sit in a chair and meditate. Okay? But get clear if you live with other people, okay, that this is your time to meditate so that they don't bother you. That they don't bother you. It's really important. They may feel uncomfortable at first. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? I don't want you to do that. Okay? Explain to them. It makes me feel good. If they love you and they care about you, you want to be together, explain. This is important to me. Okay? Slowly, and I give an example. So, I know I've told this story before, repeating all the old stories. So when I was meditating and I was living in California, and twice a year I would fly in to see my family, my parents, and stay with them. And the room I grew up in, the door doesn't lock, it doesn't shut, it's like a louvered thing. And that was what fit in the room, and it has no lock. And my mom had a habit of just opening it without knocking. So I would be in there sitting at a table with my back to her, sitting like this. And she'd say, "What are you doing?" She wasn't comfortable with me meditating. She wasn't sure about Buddhism. And, "What are you doing?" She'd call across the room. And so sometimes I wouldn't answer. So she'd get the idea, this is private time. This is like, you should knock first. You should, And then sometimes I'd say, "I'm meditating and I'll be downstairs, in a little bit, in 15 minutes. So she'd shut the door. I could feel not happy. Okay? So what she started to notice was if she interrupted me and kind of started engaging and started talking, then I was a little crankier. But if she gave me the space and didn't interrupt me, then I would come downstairs and we'd have a meal and I'd be happier. So fast forward 2 years, and I'm visiting, again, same situation, and now I hear outside the doors my father calling to me, okay? And unbelievable, I hear my mother come up and my mother says to him, "Shh, she's meditating." She's protecting the space for me. So people will learn, and you just say, maybe you have a little discussion with them first. This is really important to me, my time, don't interrupt me for this, but tell them maybe I'll be out in 20 minutes. So they know, when are we going to eat, or when are we going to leave, and 20 minutes. Okay, great. Your time. Get your phone out of the room unless you've got your prayers or something you want to look at on your phone. Because you're going to start, I just want to send one text, and there goes your 20 minutes. Make it reasonable. Don't start with an hour if you can't sit for an hour. You're new, why are you going to sit for an hour? What are you going to do for an hour? Okay? So how about 10, 15 minutes? You start, and what if you just sit, after you get the posture, again, relax. Please, 2 minutes, relax yourself. Because we come in, I'm meditating, let the day go. Let the morning, if you do it in the morning, Okay, get yourself in a relaxed space. Then the meditation comes organically. Okay? So you relax, and then from there, maybe just a little quiet time. And I'm just noticing whenever thoughts come up, I don't need to attach to them. I don't need to fix anything. I'm just sifting through, getting ready for my day or ending my day. Nothing, just being. Instead of meditating, how about being in meditation? Allowing yourself to be in meditation. Just still, your private time. So valuable, we get very little time like that. You might go, well, my mind's just bouncing off. Let it bounce for a while. It settles down after a while. You focus on the breath maybe. And then slowly, from how to meditate, you learn other meditations and you add those in. And here, you've got courses. You've got a wonderful teacher, Venerable Tendrin. And then you've got courses, Discovering Buddhism, right? So Discovering Buddhism takes you through not only our whole philosophy, so you get a great view of the Dharma in this tradition, but all of those modules have accompanying meditations. They're all different meditations. Fantastic. Okay? You want to do the first module, Mind and Its Potential, and they have beautiful meditations like the Clarity of Consciousness. It's about the nature of your mind. And that calms people down to do the Clarity of Consciousness meditation. That's an antidote to anxiety, panic, fear, and stress. And it also helps you understand the nature of your mind. So, fantastic meditation. So, it's a 1 or 2 pages. You download them, internet, you want to print it out, or you want to have a device and have them right there, then you do that meditation. Wonderful meditation. I find it so helpful. So the private time is really helpful. Okay? Number 9 of these golden rules. Leisure and unwinding time. Have fun. It's really important to keep the mind positive. Are you having any fun? Sometimes I get into one center I was working at, I was, well, usually kind of workaholic tendency. I'm aware of that about myself. I'm not doing it as much anymore. Pretty focused right now. Trying not to do it. And I noticed that there was a period where I got really leaden and I wasn't having any fun. I wasn't really playing and doing anything, and my mind just got really, really leaden. Stuck, rigid, all these other things. Really difficult. So sometimes it's good, go to the movies, but see something uplifting. See something uplifting. I was living in the Redwoods in California. We have a beautiful center there, Vajrapani. And I had a boyfriend at the time, and I was just working and working and working, and the trees are dark, and in the winter they drip, and you're just like, oh, you know. And he's like, let's go to the movies. I can't go to the movies. No, I got to finish it. We're going to the movies. The movies are 45 minutes away, a drive, to another town, another dimension, where the beach is. Totally different than the redwood trees. So I get out from under the redwoods, and then we went to a movie called Jane Eyre. You're familiar with the story, Charlotte Bronte, okay? Great story. But it was one of the remakes of Jane Eyre. You know, this was like 25 years ago, okay? But it has the sprawling English countryside. Green grass, very different than life in the redwoods, okay? You know, and the story's kind of dramatic and, you know, but whatever. But somehow just watching the movie screen with the green rolling hills, and I came out and I was like, oh, I feel so much better. Okay, so something uplifting, something interesting. Sometimes I like science fiction for that. Even reading science fiction. Or going to a science fiction movie that isn't too terrifying. Like I don't go in for monster movies and horror movies. I find them really disturbing. But some interesting concepts, science fiction, and there they are floating around in space. You know, I'm always like, cool. I've always wanted to go up in space since I was a kid, so I find that really, for me it's refreshing. Some people might find it terrifying. So how do you unwind? Recreational activities. We go to the gym. We go for a walk on the beach. We go for a run. We listen to music, bless you. We go to a concert. We go out for dinner with friends. You get the idea. Okay. Number 10, maybe the most important. Maintain your sense of humor. So helpful. Maintain your sense of humor. Okay? And I know when I'm getting leaden and I haven't done some of the other things, I lose my sense of humor. And I feel tight here. I feel sometimes painful, like grinding myself. Okay? Instead of expansive and calm. And it's so fun. And it's so fun to poke others with jokes when you know, but even to laugh at myself is so helpful. Okay? Brings the earth under me. It's so helpful to be able to laugh at myself in an appropriate way, in an appropriate time. And you want to joke with others in an appropriate time. Okay? Any questions in general, or anything I mentioned about keeping the mind, imagining the positive? Okay. A few other things I want to add in, but if you have any questions, let me know. Yesterday we talked about generosity of spirit. We were talking about generosity in relationships, but now I'm talking about, and some of these relate to the 6 perfections, and they are perfect types of behavior based on your intention and your view. And we have 6 perfections that are part of the path of developing bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is a Sanskrit word. Bodhi is enlightenment, citta is mind, the mind of enlightenment. It's all about becoming a Buddha to benefit all living beings unlimitedly. Okay? So on that path, the first perfection is generosity. And generosity is first because it creates a flow of dharma in your life. And this is something that's hard for our culture to understand about generosity. But generosity is not just about giving money. Okay? You can give time, you can give people the dharma, but there's this generosity of spirit as well, that you have a generous attitude in general. You know, where people are always helpful. They always want to help somebody. They're always willing to listen to somebody. So what they give is an ear. They give a hand, they help. They give time. Things like that. Especially the Dharma teachings, because that's the way people can free themselves from suffering. So one thing to think about how we practice generosity, and what we're not clear about in our culture, for instance, if we're giving offerings or money, is that's the source of your own prosperity. That's the cause of it. And we're not really taught that in our own culture, in the West like that. Our Asian sisters and brothers get it, and you know, they empty their pockets, they come to teachings. I mean, sometimes the centers in Asia, they're completely over the top because people are just like almost competing with each other of how many offerings we get. And here in our centers in the States, it's never like that. It's amazing. And people, and then I was living in one place that was very poor, and the people in the state were always complaining how poor they were, and there was such a lack of generosity at times towards the center, towards any teachers that came. I was just amazed, and they wonder why they're poor, and I was like, and I kept trying to explain, but you know, that wasn't going to work for them. So it's something you can think about in your own life. I just found our centers, which didn't have a lot of money, the centers I ran, so we had a determination to make offerings to various projects every year. And we didn't have a lot of money, but we felt it was important. We sometimes made offerings to individuals, and we also made offerings to certain projects that we liked. And we would decide sometimes as a staff and as a community. Sometimes I would decide I wanted to give $100 to this thing. And as a person myself, when I didn't have a lot of money, I tried to make offerings. Sometimes it was $10 to this one cause I liked, and I would just write a check for $10. And those, it was before the internet. And my little thing, and I just found that with the center, and it came back like 100-fold. We never looked back. So what happens is people don't have, so they tighten up. I can't give. Even if you give $1, and it came back, we just never looked back. We just kept going. It was like, okay, well, so we got into this practice of generosity. So it's something to think about, but mainly that generosity of spirit keeps the mind more buoyant. You see people like that, and they're happier, lighter. The second perfection is ethical conduct, morality. Morality. So this is about, for instance, if you're refraining from killing insects or harming animals, You know, a lot of people kill insects, and here you are in Florida. Oh my God. There's so many creepy crawlers like that. And I was, you know, impressed driving over here with Gina, and how she was looking at the road trying to avoid, there's frogs on the road, and, you know, she was focused on, oh, you know, trying to swerve. I know people, they just go and they're going to run it over. Like, so, like, that's good conduct. What about avoiding stealing and taking what isn't offered? How do you practice that? This is all about ethical conduct. And if you're living like this, your mind's really free and happy. Right? So you go to the gym, you forgot your conditioner. Somebody's conditioner there on the bench, I think I'll just take some. I didn't ask them, they're not done with it. They didn't leave it there. They're going to come back. But I just take some, that's kind of stealing. That's stealing. Do you ever lie on your timesheets at work? That's stealing. Take things home from the office supply cabinet and then claim them as your own. Walk out in a restaurant where they messed up the bill in your favor and you don't tell the wait person. You don't tell the server. Like that. Those are all, that's how we steal. Not a car. We're not going to go out and steal a car, but that's the kind of gunk we get into. And then later we kind of go, I should have, you know, because then it taints the mind. So think about, can I live ethically? Do I refrain from lying? Am I honest with people? Do I speak the truth? Do I have healthy relationships with people, or do I flirt with people and I know it really disturbs my partner? Like that. Do I gossip a lot, and do I say things that are rude to people and drive people apart? So you get the idea, like looking at the 10 non-virtues. 10 non-virtues of behavior that relate, 3 to mind, 3 you do with your body, 4 things we avoid with our speech, 3 things we avoid with our mind. And that can give you a nice ethical approach, and then the mind feels free and happy. Here's another one. The third one is patience. Perfection of patience. And these are really kind of tools for awakening your potential and keeping your mind happy. Patience, we're very familiar with. Tibetan, a little bit more clearly in Tibetan etymology, it really means forbearance. Forbearance, bearing up under harsh circumstances. We think of patience sometimes when waiting in the doctor's office for my appointment. Okay, that's not difficult. But when things get difficult, how do you bear up under it? And it's interesting with Lama Zopa Rinpoche's name. This is the gentleman on the right in the picture. Lama Zopa Rinpoche is the spiritual director of the center and the head of our organization. Zopa means patience. Forbearance, right? So what he has said and stated time and time again in retreats and things is what he's most interested in is how his disciples bear hardship. That's what patience does. That's what patience is interested in. So he can be a great teacher for you if you're willing to bear hardship. If you don't want to work that hard, I would find somebody else. Okay? But I found that through accepting some of the positions he's asked me to do that have been incredibly hard, there's been, I think, incredible transformation for me. I'm not a perfect being. I'm not a holy being. I'm an ordinary person. Incredible expansion of my mind. It just, he stretches you beyond and you say, I can't do anymore. And then suddenly you're bigger. And you go, oh, okay, well we worked on that really hard project. It was incredible. It was really hard. I didn't think I could do anymore. I didn't think I could, and it was so great. I'm so happy now. So it's amazing what you can do. And I think that shows it, is the real level of, and then what happens when problems turn up and trouble rears its head? Because that's when the real practice gets engaged. Life is easy, we're cruising along, no problem. I'm not really working that much with my mind. And then when the going gets rough, how's your mind? And that's when people fold up and collapse, lash out, get depressed, freak out. So that's when you really see how the practice is. When you, God forbid, get the cancer diagnosis. When a parent dies. When your dog dies. When you lose your job. When your house burns down. When your partner leaves you. Then you see where you need to practice. Or then you see the level of your mind. Right? And you can continue to keep your mind positive in all of those situations. I'm not kidding. and then you're going to be dying. So in the end, you're going to be dying. How's that going to be? Because that's a situation that is coming, you can count on. How will that be at that point? Will I be peaceful and calm and ready to go and somewhat lucid? Will I be resisting and fighting and lashing out at people and freaked out? Okay, so if I practice now while I'm healthy, while I can control a little bit of my mind, then I can put in some habits of familiarity that'll be there when I'm dying. That's what will come up. Make sense? Make sense? The next perfection, does anybody remember? Just curious. So we have
Joyous effort.
generosity, ethical conduct, patience, and
Joyous effort.
joyous effort. Thank you. Or joyous effort, or enthusiastic perseverance. It's the same. Okay? So this is not just being happy at any effort we make. You know, I'm happy to play my computer game on my whatever, you know, on your phone. It's effort made in virtue. Positive practices. Especially practices that will get you enlightened more quickly to benefit all living beings with that motivation. So what am I contributing in my life to doing anything like that? And I really find, and it's a debate I'm having now whether to go back and live at a center again, because my dad passed last year, so suddenly my whole reason for being there with my parents was to take care of them. Now that they're gone, I'm actually free to go back to a center. And will I do that? Because I knew that at the center, if I woke up with a good motivation, all of my efforts were engaged in this positive activity of making this center thrive and develop and, you know, and helping all the people. Now I live on my own in my parents' house, so when I'm teaching, it goes okay. When I'm home, there's some stuff like that I'm doing, but then there's other parts of the day that aren't as focused like that. So I'm kind of debating what might be most beneficial to do. So think about what efforts am I making that not only benefit my practice, but benefit larger groups of beings as well. Can I contribute in some way like that? Some of us volunteer for nonprofit organizations on the side, just part-time. You do that, you give of time like that. You know, some of you, I think sometimes virtuous things is people that go to shelters to adopt animals rather than buying them from some puppy mill. Like that, where the animals aren't treated as well, or from those stores, like I don't know what they're called, Pet Shop or something, and that, you know, the little windows with dogs, and they say those animals are not treated that well. They come from these animals that are just bred all the time, and so that could be a virtuous thing to go and rescue some poor animal that's going to be euthanized or something. You know, it's many ways people help. You can think about your own vocation. People I know that have gone into you know, teaching to help special needs kids, you know, or being a nurse or something like that. You know, incredibly, you know, so much, and then you do it happily, that you're doing the work happily. You know, it may not be every single moment, but like that, happy to do that. Taking care of an aging parent, you know, or somebody sick in your life or something like that, aging partner. So another thing that I find keeps my mind really buoyant is how simply do you live? Like, are you really attached? How many things are you attached to? Right? Gina was trying to add to my attachment level today with so sweet, so generous, so sweet. Anyway, I didn't know that she went out and she went and bought me maroon like workout clothes. So sweet of her, right? She's just like, you gotta have these things. I was trying to check on the color, and you're so sweet. So so what I find is it's very sweet. I very much appreciate the renunciation. How's your renunciation level? Okay, so renunciation isn't about giving things away, giving all your money away. I mean, it can be related to that. It's actually, how tired of you are you of your suffering? Are you ready to give up suffering? You know, wouldn't you like to be free of your suffering? So renunciation, when you've attained renunciation on this path, it's really about striving day and night. They say when you have an attainment of renunciation, striving day and night to get out of samsara. Samsara is a Sanskrit term, again, to turn. You're turning through birth, old age, sickness, and death. All of that is suffering. Okay? When I strive to get out of that mess, samsara, day and night working on it, then I've attained renunciation. On the way, some of us have levels of renunciation. Fantastic. We build on it slowly, until you realize, I'm so tired of it, I just want to devote myself to this path, and I'm going to do whatever I can. Once you attain renunciation, okay, you get onto the first path to enlightenment, the path of accumulation. Path of accumulation. Like that. A lot of us thought we were already on the path of accumulation. You're accumulating the conditions to get enlightened, that you're building up this store of merit, okay? You're not on that path until you have an attainment of renunciation. Like that. So think about, are there ways I could simplify? How's your stuff going? Do you have too much stuff? Right? That's a big issue for people in the States right now. And they've had these, one of the books I read, Marie Kondo, some people are familiar with that because now there was a Netflix series. Marie Kondo wrote a book about the Japanese art of tidying up. Some people found there's many tidying up methods. So maybe there's some way, maybe you get somebody, a friend of yours that's good at organizing to help you. Maybe you're a hoarder and you need some help with that. That's a serious situation. So get some help, reach out. Somebody, I want to do it. It's scary for hoarders. I know. I know a couple hoarders in my family, actually. So I know how scary it is. I've helped one of them considerably trying to clean out, and so gently you can kind of work with them if you're not a hoarder. How to introduce that we can just clear an aisle today. We're not going to clean the whole room. We're just going to clear an aisle. That's good enough. Keep it simple. But think about your own things. Simplifying. I really do think there is a magic to less is more, and a lot of people I know now are downsizing and trying to get rid of, and so think, does that free your mind up? And what are you attached to? What are you most attached to? Separate from people. Are there other things you're attached to? Okay? Here's another thing that's helpful is wisdom. Wisdom. So wisdom relates on one level to emptiness, which is a very profound part of our philosophy relating to the nature of reality, emptiness, okay? But on another level, we also have wisdom of, when I'm proceeding in life, interacting at work, talking to my neighbors, dealing with my partner, my family, my kids, friends, how much wisdom am I bringing in to the situation? It's not just intelligence, which means sometimes being silent might be the wisest approach forward. Sometimes we fill the space with all the things, I'm going to fix you and this is what you need to do, and all the advice I'm going to give you. And sometimes, I know somebody was asking my advice, a friend of mine, and I really didn't know what to tell her because we'd been through this kind of before, and when I'd given advice, she never really listened to it, but slowly, and finally, I actually thought about it for a while and said, I'm so sorry, I don't really know what to tell you. Which I found for me was the wisest thing I could say to her. I don't know if it was appropriate, but I just felt like sometimes I don't have all the little things to fix and make it better, but I'm so sorry, but I don't really know what to tell you. I don't know what to say sometimes in the face of grief, when you're showing up at someone's house after they lost somebody, and especially if it's a tragic death of a child or something sudden and shocking for everyone, and you're visiting at their home and you're bringing some food, or you're bringing flowers, or you're attending a wake, a funeral, shiva, whatever, you're going to some sort of ceremony to be there with them. And sometimes, and I hear people come in, and my dad passed last July, and I hear the different people are uncomfortable with death, right? And if you're older, it's coming sooner. So they get kind of like, oh, he was the last of that generation in our neighborhood, so we're next, they'd say. So I'd hear people saying things like, I don't know if you're familiar with this, he's in a better place now. Okay, we got that statement. And my brother walked me into the kitchen at one point and said, "How do they know?" Right? He was so sick of them saying that. He goes, "How do they know?" Right? And people would say some really silly things that, just seemed so inappropriate. What about sometimes, "I'm so sorry, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say." I had to go to a friend's house. Their 16-year-old son committed suicide in their house. And I didn't know what to say. So I just gave her a big hug, and we cried, and I said, I have no words, I don't know what to say. And she said, "There's nothing to say." But there's connection there. Meeting, I see you, like that. So it's really difficult sometimes. So see if you can I bring a level of, instead of just jabbering on some nervous talk and saying things that really are not helpful, okay? This leads me to another level of that I find is helpful, is authenticity. Authenticity that can contribute to the wisdom. Authenticity. So I think I mentioned this before, to be your authentic self, and it's challenging. And if you ever read any Brené Brown, I know I've mentioned her before, she's a sociologist in Texas. Some people read her, Brené Brown. Mm-hmm. Read her. She's refreshing, okay? And I think one of her books I read, Daring Bravely, maybe? One of the books she talks about badassery. To be a badass. Okay? Now when we think of a badass, and you go, well, he's a real badass, sometimes it's a hassle. It's a problem maker. Somebody who's difficult. That's not what she's talking about. Okay? So she talks about, it's about authenticity. And so I went to a women's march with some, not this year, the past year, with some of my neighbors. And I didn't know them really well, some of them. But we went, and we took the train in town, and we made signs, and I went with this intention, and I go to some political marches. I used to be involved in politics, and I went with an intention of love and connection. So a lot of people are angry now about politics. But that was not my intention. I wanted to go and support, I think it's important, women's rights, so off I went with my neighbors. And I have a loud voice, so we were leading some chants, and my neighbor's voice isn't loud. She turned to me all of a sudden and she goes, "Let's do this chant, new chant." But the chant was really negative. And so it kind of went in here, and did I say this before?
Yeah.
Okay. And it kind of went in, and I was like, I didn't really want to do that. And I had a moment to think about it, and I thought, I don't want to piss her off. Like, I don't know her that well, and you kind of want to get into the group and be that you made her happy. But I thought, I don't want to do that chant. That's not why I came here. It's not me. And so I just turned to her really nicely, and I said, I said, I kind of really came here wanting to connect in a positive way, and I don't really want to do any negative chants. Is that okay? And she totally got it. I was just being authentic, and she goes, "Oh, you know what? You're right. You're totally right. Like, yeah, let's stay above that. I'm like, "Thank you." I said, "Yeah, isn't that better?" And then they're all like, "Yeah, that's better. Let's do that." So just holding my line, and so I think it was Brené Brown's, I was being a badass, right? Being honest and truthful and being myself and speaking from my heart. Sorry. I can't go there. That's not where I'm going. Sorry. Holding the line, being authentic. That's brave. That's brave, I think, doing stuff like this. I'm not saying I'm any great person, but when Brené Brown talks about braving the wilderness, it's things like that. So I just sat in the Nashville airport waiting to fly here. And, you're waiting in your little lobby for your plane. And the configuration, there were two guys behind me. And one of them was clearly the dominant. I don't know if he had a higher position. They both worked for the same company. Whether he had a higher position, whether he made more money, I don't know what the deal was. I didn't know either of them. But the dominant one talked incessantly, almost the entire time. And it was all this criticism of the office and this person, and Brandy's supposed to be doing that, and this person, and I told him I'm not going to travel, and we got the thing, and I don't know why they're doing that. And then the other guy I could tell sounded really, really insecure. And but kind of flattered that this other guy was talking to him. So he kept would nervously laugh when the guy would say something. Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that, and I just wanted to say to him, I wanted to turn around and go, what are you really thinking right now? What do you really want to say to him? Like, because you know that feeling where you're feeling somebody's uncomfortable, but they're kind of going along, and then I could hear him agreeing with the guys, but saying it in really kind of stupid ways. Really kind of silly ways that he'd agree and go, yeah, she does do that, yeah, And I felt kind of sorry for him that he couldn't just kind of say, yeah, it's a shame the company's so dysfunctional, but I really like her, you know. And then later he did come around about somebody I could tell that, you know, you hear this. It was just, and I just wanted to turn to the other guy and say, you know, could you just close your mouth for a moment and let the other guy speak? But, so being a badass is standing up for, if somebody's telling racist, sexist jokes and they have more power over you, you think, do you laugh at the jokes? Think it's because that condones them. They think it's okay then. And you feel insecure and it's your boss? You know, do you laugh at the jokes like that and go along with the crowd that's doing, you know, that's kind of what's happening in a part of the States right now. Like that. Question?
What do you do if, like, you're in a situation like that, but you're around people who are, like to make fun of, I guess, like, whatever your opinion is and try to convince you otherwise? I've been around people who have actively gotten upset and then try to convince me otherwise, like, why that's wrong or something, and, like, bring legitimate facts and knowledge about it of why I'm wrong and you're right. How do I handle that so that it's, because I don't agree, obviously.
Right.
But how do I?
Get your facts together so that you have talking points. Because in the real nature of, let's just say it's politics right now, I do know some people that have tried to engage me, and if I don't have my facts, then I can't go and say, actually, no, you know, the policy on this is this, and this is what the federal deficit is now at, and this is what actually got tripled under this leader versus that leader. Or, you know, so if you have some facts around you, you can debate. And if not, sometimes I'll just listen and say, you know, I'm really interested in creating healthy relationships with people, and I'm sure we can find some talking points in common, some things we both agree on. Let's focus on that for a little bit. Because the divisiveness, they're not going to convince you. You're not going to convince them. But if you find something in common and if you create a healthy relationship with them, if you make friends with people, they're much more likely to listen to you and agree with you. And suddenly actually think about the thing that you're agreeing with, the thing that you believe in. So if we just fight and be divisive, if we shut down on the other like that.
What if they're narcissistic personality?
Narcissistic people, it really comes from insecurity, that thing, and it's actually, I think it's classified, and correct me if I'm wrong, as it's an illness, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's a serious illness. So when somebody has a serious illness, I have compassion for them. I can keep my heart open to them, but I don't have to get stuck under some of the things they're talking about from the space. It's very self-serving and things, but I can certainly feel like, wow, how much suffering and insecurity. And I can limit the time that I might want to spend around them. That's okay. You know, we don't have to be around people that are really difficult, you know, that are really challenging us like that. You can limit the time. You know, I mean, unless it's like a relative and but you can still limit the time like that. Yeah. We can vote. Okay? We have an election in November. How many of you vote? I'm curious. That's a good number. It's our basic right, and in other countries, you won't believe how long they wait in line to vote, and in the States a lot of people don't vote. So if you have a thing about politics, exercise your right to vote. Okay, I don't care who you vote for, just get out there and vote. I think that's a basic right, a freedom that we have in this country, and so many people don't use it. And there's a lot of people that can't vote because they're felons or something. you know, they're in prison or something like that, and they can't even vote. So I think that can be helpful. So a little bit more to go on. Wait, just before we close, I wanted to go into. So those are some things you can think about. How do these play in your life? Am I using any of them? Am I authentic? How am I working to develop my wisdom? Am I doing it, or am I not doing it? You know, how am I doing with the 6 perfections? We didn't talk about concentration, and we didn't talk about concentration, but that's meditation. That would be developing a meditation practice. So let me talk about a few other things that I think really lend to positive. Where is it? The first one I know I mentioned this before, but I want to talk perspective. I mentioned it a little bit. Healthy perspective is really a foundation of positivity, okay? The way we see the world is the way we experience the world. Changing the way we see the world, in turn, changes the way we feel and the way we act, okay? And that can change the world itself. So, according to Tibetan Buddhism, everything comes from the mind. Everything comes from the mind. I know not everyone agrees with that, okay? Your entire reality comes from your mind, your attitude. So there is a film that came out many years ago called What the Bleep Do We Know? What the Bleep Do We Know? It's almost like a documentary. Did anybody see it? Okay. Filmed in Portland, Oregon. It's all about your attitude and how it frames, how it runs a situation. Really worthwhile. It's worthwhile to stream it because you need to stop it every 3 minutes to discuss that point in it. Like there was so much flying through it that with friends and I, we'd sometimes go, stop there. What do you think about that? Like, wow, is that amazing? And they also highlight in the film, is it a Japanese photographer?
Yes.
Okay, that took photos of water molecules. Water molecules, I think.
It was.
And what they did is they took a water cooler, and on the side they pasted love on the water cooler. Hope. Something positive, okay? And then he photographed the water molecules, the crystals, under like a microscope, and they were full of light and amazingly bright. And then he put on the water cooler war, hatred, like that, and then he photographed them, and they were all like crushing in on each other and broken. You know how much water is in your body? What's the percentage? Gina, you might know that. What's the percentage of water that the body's made up of? It's a lot.
I want to say 80-20, I don't know offhand though.
It's big. It's a lot of fluid in the water.
Yeah.
So if you want to go around like, I hate people, I hate myself, you're a jerk, she's stupid, what's that doing to the water molecules in your body? Where do you think illness comes from? Disease, dis-ease, right? Or we can try to work with 6 perfections, we can try to work with golden rules of resiliency and put things in perspective, be more flexible, more tolerant, authentic, joyous, more, and it lights you up. I've seen people body broken up in a wheelchair, radiant. I saw a guy dying of AIDS in the very end stage of AIDS, body done. He was radiant. He was blind from the disease, he was radiant. And he said to me, he said, if I hadn't gotten this disease, I never would have learned how to love. Can you imagine being there? Tremendous pain, body ravaged, right? You can be happy. It's possible. And you say it sounds extreme, and there's people all over the world doing that. So absolutely possible like that. So that was an interesting film about your attitude. And you see people. And another thing I wanted to add from this, one thing I love. So there's many different angles in life to view the same event from. Did you ever notice that? I just spoke to a couple people I know close to me. They went to see the Philadelphia Orchestra Beethoven concert, okay? Here's their view of the concert. Same concert. I said, how was the concert? One of them said, oh, it was Beethoven. I didn't really know what they were playing. It really was pretty lackluster. I was really bored. I just nothing really happening. I asked the other person. It was Beethoven. I didn't really know what they were playing. I really enjoyed it. I was watching all the instruments. It was really pleasant. I was really relaxed. I really liked it. So what are you going to choose? Lackluster or I really enjoyed? It's really your choice. Any moment you can choose. Now, we have tough times sometimes. You will be challenged by life at times. You've already been challenged. You know, and I'm sorry, but some caca's going to happen to you. That's how samsara is. That's life. It's normal. Some difficult times come and then they go. So if I can practice right now with some small challenges in life, smaller ones, and I get good at that, and I'm exercising my mind and understanding all these other tools, resiliency and all these other things, then when something more major happens, I might have some habitual tendency to deal with it with a positive attitude. It's about practice. That's what we're doing on the cushion. We often call it practice. It's a rehearsal. Taking my mind and I'm putting it through certain analytical and concentrative experiences to get it into a very flexible, resilient, bright space, to get it to be a Buddha. Then you're free. Then you're happy all the time. Can you reframe? One last thing I'll mention. We're going to talk more about this weekend. There's one space left in the retreat this weekend in Delray. It's a separate place they've rented. If you'd like to do this Path of Joy retreat this weekend, I will guide you through meditations. It's mostly a lot of meditation. It's Friday evening to Sunday lunch. Treat yourself a couple days, that's it. You won't go wrong. It's very, very nice, and I think one person just canceled, so there's one space left. And if you want any info, please, you can ask me. So what about reframing? Reframing a situation into something more positive. It's always possible to do that. There's some people it's always negative to them. There's some people always find the bright side. They always find that there's some positive take they can get from it. And one of the things that was most impressive to me, and some of you probably read this book, but there's an old monk, I'm not sure if he passed away now maybe, at Namgyal Monastery in Dharamsala, India, where His Holiness the Dalai Lama lives. And he was in prison by the communist Chinese for years until he escaped, and escaped to Tibet and was saying what had happened. And His Holiness spent time with him, and His Holiness said at one point, were you ever really afraid? You know, afraid they were going to kill you, or afraid, were you ever really, really afraid for something? And then he thought about it, and he said there was one time I really had tremendous fear. And he said there was one instance with my oppressors that put us in jail and everything, my oppressors, when I nearly lost my compassion. He said, I was really afraid, I almost lost my compassion.
Wow.
Can you imagine? So we can also cultivate that kind of mind through this path. Any other questions, comments? Is it helpful?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you'd like more help, I'm leading a pilgrimage in May to the Mount Everest region of Nepal to visit a incredibly remote retreat center. This is the view from Laudo. Retreat center is called Laudo. And we have a day in Kathmandu, and then we fly up in a small plane. We trek a few days. We do a 3-day retreat at Laudo, mostly in silence. I guide you through meditations, and we experience that whole environment. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche's sister lives there. They take very good care of us. We explore a little bit of the area around there, and it could be really a positively transforming experience for you. That's what people have said. I led another one a year and a half ago, and it was fantastic. Even for me, it was totally fantastic. So if you're interested, more info, and if you want more info, there's more on. You can take a card on my website, where there's also some more teachings, audio and video, if it's helpful for you. So thank you so much for coming. Yes, please.
I have very small kids. I cannot go, but in a few years, does it happen every year?
It doesn't happen every year, but I also have a friend, another nun, who leads them almost every year. Her pilgrimage is it's shorter than mine. It's a bit different than mine. Because at Laudo there's a sacred cave, and Laudo has this environment. You want to meditate there. It's amazing to meditate there. So I think hers is more teaching than meditation, but Venerable Rabina leads a pilgrimage, so you could join hers. I don't know when I'll do my next one. I hope there'll be another one, but I don't know when.
Oh.
So yeah, we'll check in like that. Anything else? So let's dedicate whatever positive energy we've created. I'd like to invest it in our really progressing along a path and really livening up our practices to, first of all, orient our minds in a more positive way, and being able to help that motivate our practices so we can quickly get enlightened to benefit all living beings. We're going to turn to page 235, General Dedication Prayers. We can read these in English. Does anybody need a book? Do you want to look on, or
We can,
do you want
need a
to?
book. You sure? No, here comes another one. Here comes another one. Oh, here we go. Here we go, here. 235.
Maybe open it up. Yeah, there you go. Might be easier. Great.
All right.
Due to the merits of his virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. Page 244, the short, long life prayers for His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chinmay Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. I'd like to dedicate to the great flourishing of Thupten Khunga Center, and I'd like to dedicate to Gina's mom, Anna Kanisi, who passed away recently, and all the other beings on the planet who have recently died. May they take a good rebirth to be of benefit to all. And also for all the people experiencing the coronavirus, may the spread of that stop instantly and all the people be healed, and for all the fires to be extinguished in Australia and all other conflictive areas of the world to be healed instantly. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.